They said she was too small to make a difference. But they didn't see what I saw in her eyes. This wasn't just a kitten. She was a hero in the making. Have you ever met someone or something so fearless that it left you speechless? Let me tell you about Daisy, a tiny stray kitten with no family, no one to protect her. Yet she stepped into a moment so dangerous, so heart-stopping, that even grown men were too afraid to act. What she did will leave you in awe. By the end of this story, you'll see why size truly doesn't matter when your heart is bigger than your fear. It all began one stormy night. Thunder roared, lightning split the sky, and rain poured down like it had something to prove. In a small, forgotten corner of town, a rickety old shed stood on the verge of collapse. Inside that shed, a terrified puppy was trapped, whimpering softly as the rising floodwaters crept closer. People in the neighborhood had gathered, but nobody dared to approach. The water was too strong, the shed too unstable, and the rain was relentless. "It's too dangerous," one man muttered, shaking his head. Another person whispered, "That poor thing, but what can we do?" And then, from the shadows, she appeared, Daisy, the scrawny kitten with matted fur, barely older than a few months. She was shivering, her tiny frame soaked from the rain. No one paid her any attention at first, assuming she'd scurry off like any frightened animal would. But Daisy didn't run. She stepped forward. At first, people laughed. "What's that kitten going to do?" someone scoffed. But Daisy didn't stop. She trotted towards the raging water, her little paws sinking into the mud. When she reached the edge, she paused, staring intently at the trapped puppy. Their eyes met. Something passed between them, an understanding, a silent promise. Daisy leapt onto a floating plank, balancing precariously as the current tugged at it. The crowd gasped. "She's going to drown!" a woman cried. But Daisy didn't hesitate. With every ounce of determination in her tiny body, she pushed forward, navigating the debris-strewn water like a seasoned sailor. Halfway there, the plank jolted violently, nearly tipping over. Daisy clawed desperately to stay on, her body trembling from the effort. For a moment, it seemed like she might give up. But then, the puppy let out another desperate yelp, and Daisy's resolve hardened. She jumped off the plank, landing on a piece of driftwood closer to the shed. Inch by inch, she crawled through the muck and chaos until she finally reached the crumbling structure. The puppy was shaking uncontrollably, its paw stuck under a broken beam. Daisy approached cautiously, her soft meow cutting through the storm. The puppy whimpered, but Daisy nudged its face gently, as if to say, "I'm here. You're not alone." Using her sharp claws, Daisy began tugging at the beam. It was too heavy for her to move entirely, but she didn't stop trying. The crowd watched in stunned silence, their umbrellas forgotten as they stood in the pouring rain. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the air. The shed was collapsing. People screamed, some turning away, unable to bear the sight. But in that split second, Daisy did something no one expected. She bit down on the puppy's scruff and pulled with every ounce of strength she had. The beam shifted just enough for the puppy to wiggle free, but there was no time to celebrate. The shed was falling apart around them. With the puppy in her jaws, Daisy darted back through the water. The current was stronger now, threatening to sweep them both away. The plank she had used earlier was gone, leaving nothing but a dangerous stretch of open water between them and safety. The puppy was heavy, and Daisy was exhausted, but she didn't stop. Kicking her little legs furiously, she swam against the current. Just as her strength began to falter, a man from the crowd waded into the water, reaching for her. "I've got you," he shouted. He lifted Daisy and the puppy out of the water, cradling them both as the crowd erupted into cheers. That night, Daisy became a legend. The puppy, later named Lucky, wouldn't leave her side, following her everywhere as if he knew he owed her his life. As for Daisy, she found her forever home with the family who had rescued her from the water. They say she's still just as fearless, still just as determined. But every now and then she curls up next to Lucky, her little chest rising and falling as they sleep side by side. A reminder that even the smallest among us can do the most extraordinary things. Daisy taught everyone that bravery isn't about size or strength. It's about heart. If Daisy's story inspired you, Hit that subscribe button now. Join us for more heartwarming tales of courage and love that will remind you of the good in the world. Don't miss out. Be a part of this journey.